So, hello to you all, welcome to my channel. This is my first and probably last video. I'm going to make a French version of this one. So, if you are more familiar with that language, you may be able to watch it. I did an Ancestry DNA test. You're all here for that, I guess. The video is in three parts. So, first of all, I'm going to speak about myself and my family background. Later on, just quickly to say why I opted for 23andMe and not any other firm, and lastly the results proper. So my name is Manish. I was born and bred in Mauritius, an island state in the Indian Ocean. So it is east of Madagascar, west of Australia, south of Indian subcontinent. So we are right in the Indian Ocean. Our motto is Stella Clavisque Maris Indici, so the star and key of the Indian Ocean. Long ago, the ships that had to circumnavigate Africa to go to Europe had to pass through Mauritius. That was before the construction of the Suez Canal by the French. So I'm an Indo-Mauritian. My ancestors came from the Bhojpuri speaking of northern India, so in current modern day Bihar. My family is Hindu, and for the sake of accuracy, my father is Vaish and my mother is, I guess, Thakur, because my Nana, my maternal grandfather, used to have a side job as an assistant to the priest during weddings. So now in Mauritius, as I said, it's a small island state in the Indian Ocean. It has no indigenous inhabitants. So unless you count the dodos that are now extinct. But it was formally discovered in 1598 by the Dutch. They settled it very briefly and then went away. And it was permanently settled for the first time by the French in 1715. So currently 2% of the Mauritian population is of French descent. The French brought in slaves, mostly from the eastern part of southern Africa, so current Mozambique, and also from Madagascar. And the descendants of those slaves are called Mauritian Creoles, and they make up around 28% of the total population of the country. The island was conquered by the British during the Napoleonic Wars in 1810. They abolished slavery in 1835, and as from 1834 to the 1920s, hundreds of thousands of Indians settled on the island as indentured laborers, amongst which my ancestors. Currently, most of Indian indentured laborers came from northern India, from Bihar, but with significant minorities from Tamil Nadu, current day Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Maharashtra. Indo-Mauritians represent around 66% of the total population of the island, so two-thirds. And last but not least, at the end of the 19th century, Chinese migrants from southern China settled on the island, and they currently represent 3% of the total population. So around 2% French, 28% blacks, 66% Indians, and 3% Chinese. That's the Mauritian mosaic. So lastly, on Mauritius, it is the only Hindu majority country of Africa, with 48.5% of the population practicing Hinduism. 32.7% of the population is Christian, and 17.3% of the population is Muslim. Practically all of them came from the Indian subcontinent. So as far as the Muslims are concerned, they came from undivided India, so before 1947, of course. So now, why did I pick 23andMe? Firstly, because I currently live in a country where not all firms send the test, but 23andMe does it, and it cost me under €100 to do the test, including the postal fees. So the fees of receiving the test and then sending it back. And it was very convenient to send it back because it was already prepaid. You just had to drop it in the mailbox, and it was delivered. So I did not have to buy a stamp or anything and pay anything. And lastly, the results are of course very detailed. I prefer the way they are presented when compared to other firms, but they also give you a chronology, so you can actually find out with varying degrees of accuracy when fully something ancestor got into the family. So when fully Chinese or Indian or African ancestor got in the family, there's a timeline, so a chronology. That's quite interesting for me. And you have also insights on the maternal and paternal haplogroups, Neanderthal DNA, and on the traits, like whether you like coffee or if I'm going to get bald or anything. So now the results properly. So let us see. Up. Ancestry and traits. So let's go. So I'm 100% curry. Composition. So as you can see already, Central and South Asian 100%. So basically from here. Now it already breaks down to Central Asian, Northern Indian and Pakistani 79.7%, but actually Bengali and Northeast Indian 49.7%, and again you have to forget the Bengali part because there are a lot of exclusions. So when they said we did not detect enough evidence of recent ancestry from Bangladesh or Nepal. So no Nepal, but also no Bangladesh. Now anyone familiar with Indian history knows that Bangladesh used to be part of a greater region called Bengal. So I can't be having ancestors from West Bengal and not any from Bangladesh. That wouldn't make sense. So it basically means that I am from the northeast only at 49.7%. So India northeast origins highly likely match. We could not pinpoint a specific state, but you have 7 states here. So the 7 sister states of the northeast of India. So basically Assam, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and Meghalaya. So the 7 sister states from here. You have Sikkim here, but Sikkim is not really connected directly to the northeast, and I am excluding the whole of Bengal because if Bangladesh is out, so is West Bengal according to me. And in any case, we said northeast regions. So 49.7%. So this came as a surprise. So according to family history, we are all Bhojpuri speaking Hindus from Bihar. My mother spoke about some Bengali origins probably, but nothing serious there according to me. So this came as a surprise. This is not a reaction video. I got the results a week ago and my mother was on the phone, so we spoke about them together. So this is a surprise. So according to me, A very long time ago, my ancestors from northeast India settled down in the Bhojpuri speaking regions of Bihar, adopted the language, but kept practicing endogamy. So if we kept marrying within the same clan, the same families, and the same castes, that could explain why the bloodline remains so pure, 49.7%, and no Bihari anywhere. So that could explain why we adopted the language but not intermarried with the local people, probably. So I'm moving on to northern India and Pakistani. So as you can already see here, we were able to identify a specific Indian state, and again there are exclusions. So in northern India, we specifically identified Maharashtra. So again, this is a surprise, but we also excluded Pakistan. So as far as Maharashtra is concerned, there are around 2% Marathis in Mauritius, but again, according to family history, we are not Marathis. So again, that's a surprise. Now, an additional point, in Mauritius we do learn ancestral languages. So my mother tongue is Mauritian Creole. It is a French-based Creole, but as from age 4, we learn English and French, and as from age 6, we learn an ancestral language depending on ethnicity and religion. So my ancestors coming from northern India, and we being Hindus, I learned Hindi because Bhojpuri is considered as a dialect of Hindi and as a rural language. So Hindi is more prestigious and elitist. So I learned Hindi, but I had friends who came from a Hindu background, but they were Tamils, so they studied Tamil. They were Telugus, so they studied Telugu, and they were Marathis, so they studied Marathi. So apparently, being a quarter, nearly a quarter Marathi, I could probably have learned Marathi instead of Hindi. So another surprise. So I'm really glad to have done the test because so far, two surprises. We are 49.7% Northeast Indian and 26.5% Maharashtrian Marathis. And of course, there's 3.5% broadly Central Asian, Northern Indian, and Pakistani. Here we couldn't identify a specific state because it is broadly, but as we already excluded Pakistan here, so I guess from any of the other Indian states in the north. So last but not least, Southern South Asian. So as you can see, this is South Asia, of course, but again, there are some exclusions. So first of all, they excluded Sri Lanka. So we could not find any trace of me in Sri Lanka and detect any enough evidence of recent ancestry from Sri Lanka. But we were also able to exclude Kerala. So I'm not Malayali. So most probably Telugu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, the Telugu region, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. According to the results, we were able to identify 96 relatives of me, and one of them actually is a third cousin twice removed, who lives in Hyderabad, which is the capital of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana for the time being, because the states were bifurcated. So the capital of Andhra Pradesh is going to move to Visakhapatnam. No, not really. To I forgot the name of a new capital of Andhra Pradesh. But yes, but apparently I have got a cousin in the Telugu land. So 20.3%, so 1/5. And I'm actually quite happy about that because I'm a great fan of Bharatanatyam, and I really like the architecture of great monuments of South India, Brihadeshwara temple or Hampi and the likes. So I'm quite happy about that. So again, there was no family history about us being South Indian, but apparently we are South Indian by 20.3%. And if you look at the results and at all the exclusions, so they excluded Nepal, the whole of Bengal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Kerala. At the end of the day, I am fully Indian in the sense that all my ancestors came from the current modern borders of modern India. So, be it the seven sister states, Maharashtra, or South India. So, I'm quite happy about that. So, and quite happy about being from the northeast, even if it was a surprise. Maharashtra, of course, it was a surprise too, and also South India, it was a surprise. So I guess that's why I like Bharatanatyam, which is my favorite classical Indian dance. So I'm quite happy about the results. And before I forget, I spoke about it. So where it is, yes, the timeline. Yes, it's here. So this is a special feature of 23andMe and one that I really wanted to have. So I did the test also because even in Mauritius, many of my friends who sometimes were of Indian origins too assumed that I was mixed because I've got small eyes, and I don't know if you can see it, but see them, but I have got small eyes, and mostly on my mother's side. So they assumed that we were mixed, but apparently no. I'm 100% Indian, and the small eyes probably came from Northeast India. And as you can see, there my Northeast Indian ancestor, my fully Northeast Indian ancestor, got into the family between 1900 and 1960. Well, even before, I guess, but and when my fully Marathi ancestors got into the family from 1900 to 1960, and even before, I guessed. But as far as my South Indian ancestor or ancestors, we got into a family from 1870 to 1930, so not later. Now that's interesting because my ancestors came to Mauritius at the end of the 19th century. So most probably when they got into Mauritius, they mixed. So when a South Indian getting into Mauritius there at that point of time mixed with someone from Maharashtra, who later on mixed with someone who was predominantly from the northeast of India, something of like that. So these are recent mixtures actually. So yes, I'm fully Indian from the south, from central and north India. The mixes seem to be quite recent. So quite a lot of endogamy till 1870, and then thanks to Mauritian indentured labor system, we got mixed. So, well, the British got us mixed in a way, which is not quite bad. So it's not over. There's another thing. Yes, the haplogroups. So there, no surprise actually, because my maternal haplogroup is very Indian. So the maternal line that remained in the family, that kept getting passed on from generations and generations, M3OD1, is very uncommon among us 23andMe customers, but highest diversity found in India. How unsurprising. So Indian women here, and my paternal haplogroup. So my paternal haplogroup is more ancient and can be found in the Near East. So again, it's not very common among the customers of 23andMe. So up Near East, so J-M241, not very common among 23andMe customers. And another thing not very common among their customers, it's the Neanderthal ancestry, because it so happens, and it was quite an interesting discovery, that I am more Neanderthal than 91% of all customers of 23andMe. So I've read before that all those who are not of sub-Saharan African ancestry have got some Neanderthal DNA, but to varying degrees. So most customers of 23andMe are probably from North America, so Europeans and probably sub-Saharans. So I've got more DNA from Neanderthal than 91% of our customers of this firm, but at the end it's still less than 2% of my DNA. So everything is relative. I don't have vertigo, true, but I'm neither a good sprinter nor a good distance runner. Probably I sprint more than run on the long run, but everything is relative. So I think I did not forget anything. I'm not going to show you the traits because, well, you don't care much about whether I'm going to go bald or not. So these are my results. I'm quite happy about them, to tell the truth. Even more happy than because they were unexpected, and I really like the results. Actually, there's nothing disappointing or anything. I mean, I wouldn't have been disappointed if I had some Chinese ancestry, because I really like East Asian civilizations, so I wouldn't have minded that at all. But knowing that actually I'm just 100% curry is quite interesting in itself, and I'm quite happy about that. So my ancestors did not move that much, because they remain purely Marathis, Northeast Indian or South Asian, South Indian, probably until they got into Mauritius, and then they mixed. So that was quite interesting. Oh yes, and so you'll know how I look. So just to have an idea of my parents. So this is dad, of course, and my mother. So here we are. So I think I look like my mother more, and my sister probably looks like my dad more. So here we are, and here is me, 100% so Indian, nearly half Northeast Indian, a quarter a Marathi, and 1/5 South Indian. So here it is. And hope you can be more interested in Indian history and Mauritian history after this. So namaste, au revoir, and probably see you later on. Who knows?